There is no specialized workshop here, no rubber seal replacements, no technicians dismantling doors, no workbench full of tools, no car lifted on a hydraulic lift, no printed estimate with hundreds of dollars in parts. But look at this. A car door closes, silently, smoothly, effortlessly. No squeaks, no hollow sound from dried-out seals, no metallic noise that makes it seem like the door never fits properly. Just the muted, solid sound that a new car makes. And yet, nothing was replaced. No new parts were installed, no rubber seals were removed, no door was disassembled. It cost about $6. A small trick that restores dried-out rubber door seals and brings back the original sealing, without taking anything apart, without replacing parts, without special tools, without taking the car to a repair shop. Just a few minutes of work. A retired mechanic in Arizona used this method on a 1994 pickup that had spent years parked under the desert sun, the kind of sun that destroys plastics, that hardens hoses, that turns rubber into something almost like stone. The door seals were as stiff as plastic. When you pressed them with your finger, they wouldn't give. They simply resisted. When the door closed, the sound was dry and metallic, as if the car were always slightly open. The seals were full of tiny, invisible cracks, microscopic, but enough to let wind through, dust, and sometimes even rainwater. He applied 3 layers of a simple liquid using nothing more than a cotton cloth. No machines, no expensive sprays, no professional equipment. It took less than 30 minutes. The next morning, the rubber seals were flexible, dark, and soft again, exactly like when the car left the factory. The texture had returned, the elasticity too. The door closed with that smooth sound every car owner instantly recognizes. 5 years later, they are still like that. No new cracks, no hardening, no need for replacement. The automotive industry moves billions of dollars every year just with simple replacement parts. Small parts, parts that rarely appear in advertisements, but that are replaced constantly. Much of that money comes from items that naturally age: rubber seals, gaskets, hoses, retainers, and sealing components. Small parts, cheap to manufacture, but they require disassembly, and disassembly costs money. Every panel removed, every bolt loosened, every minute of labor, all of it goes into the final bill. A solution that restores these rubber seals for a few dollars simply does not fit into this business model. They did not stop talking about it because it failed. They stopped because it worked too well. A permanent solution that anyone can apply at home does not generate repair shop visits. And what does not generate visits does not generate revenue. This is the story of one of the cheapest tricks ever discovered for automotive maintenance and how it remained virtually unknown for decades. Not because it was secret, but because it was never widely promoted. Welcome to Forbidden Camp. If you are not subscribed yet, subscribe and activate the bell. Here we open vaults of knowledge that billion-dollar industries prefer to keep closed. Simple techniques, cheap solutions, knowledge that works in the real world. At the beginning of the 20th century, a German engineer named Karl Brenner worked in an industrial materials laboratory near Hamburg. His job was to study how to protect rubber seals used in railway machinery. These parts were essential. They kept dust out of mechanical systems, they prevented water infiltration, and they protected expensive components inside locomotives. These parts suffered from extreme cold in winter and intense heat in summer, sudden temperature changes, constant exposure to air. Over time, the rubber lost flexibility. It hardened, cracked, and allowed dust, water, and air to enter. During experiments with light solvents and silicone compounds, Brenner noticed something curious. When certain low-viscosity liquids were applied to aged rubber, the material did not remain only on the surface. It penetrated the microscopic structure of the rubber and restored part of the lost flexibility. He called this phenomenon polymer capillary reconditioning. The explanation was simple. Over time, rubber loses part of its internal oils due to exposure to heat and oxygen. These oils are responsible for flexibility. When they disappear, the material hardens. This creates microchannels in the rubber structure, tiny microscopic pathways. If a liquid thin enough enters these channels, it can redistribute lubrication inside the rubber. When that happens, the material begins to behave like a new seal again. Railway companies tested the method immediately on locomotives operating on mountain routes, where perfect sealing was essential to protect sensitive mechanical systems. The rubber seals of technical doors and engine compartments were treated with this liquid. After 2 simple applications with cotton cloths, the rigid seals recovered almost complete elasticity. But there is an important detail in this story. Railways operate under a different economic model than the automotive sector. They prefer restoring existing parts instead of replacing them, because replacing components in enormous machines costs time and stops operations. Restoring is cheaper, much cheaper. When the automotive industry grew rapidly in the following decades, the logic was different. Manufacturers discovered that rubber parts that naturally age create a constant replacement market, and replacement parts mean continuous sales. Door seals, window seals, trunk seals, hood seals, all of them suffer from the same aging process. Sun, oxygen, temperature changes. After a few years, rubber loses elasticity. It shrinks, it hardens, and begins to let air or water pass through. The traditional solution has always been simple: replace the entire part. But the principle discovered by Brenner still works perfectly today. Modern chemistry has only made the compounds cheaper and easier to find. The active ingredient behind this trick is a simple compound of liquid silicone or a polymer-based rubber conditioner. When applied to dried-out seals, the liquid slowly penetrates the microchannels of the material. It redistributes lubrication inside the structure and restores flexibility to the rubber. It is not like grease. It is not like oil. It does not remain only on the surface. It integrates into the material. The result is a restored seal that compresses properly against the metal of the door again. No squeaks, no leaks, no hollow sound when closing the car. And you can find everything you need in any hardware store or auto part shop for about $6. Stay with me, because the most interesting part of this story is not just the trick. It is how something so simple stayed out of common conversations about automotive maintenance. For decades, most products sold as rubber restorers worked only temporarily. They were based on strong solvents or silicone surfaces. They made rubber look shiny for a few weeks, but they evaporated quickly. After that, the problem returned, and the car owner reached the obvious conclusion: the seal was dead. Time to replace it. But independent tests conducted by materials engineers in the 2000s showed something interesting. When low-viscosity silicone compounds were properly applied to aged automotive seals, elasticity recovery could exceed 80% of the original flexibility. That is more than enough to restore functional sealing and keep doors quiet for years, even on vehicles exposed to the sun daily. Despite that, repair shops rarely mention this type of solution, not because of a direct conspiracy, but because the automotive maintenance model was built around replacing parts, not chemical restoration. Replacing parts generates service, restoring parts generates a single application, and the customer never returns for that problem again. Now here is exactly what to do. First, clean the door seals with water and neutral detergent. This removes dust and old residue. Dry completely with a clean cloth. Then apply a small amount of liquid silicone conditioner or rubber restorer onto a soft cloth. Run the cloth along the entire door seal. Slowly. Make sure to cover all areas where the rubber touches the car body. Let the product sit for about 10 to 15 minutes. The rubber will begin absorbing the liquid. Then wipe with a dry cloth to remove the excess. Repeat the process once more. On very dry seals, a third application may help. After a few hours, the material regains part of the lost elasticity, and the difference when closing the door is immediate. Smooth sound, firm sealing, and no replacement required. Total material cost, approximately $6. Total application time, less than 20 minutes. Compare that with a full seal replacement on 4 doors. New parts, labor, and easily several $100s. The knowledge to restore these parts never disappeared. It simply remained hidden in old technical manuals and industrial material studies. But like every simple technique, it still works exactly as it always has. Now you know. Take care of your car, and see you in the next video when we open one more vault of forgotten knowledge